Bombshell at the Boston Celtics. 4 surprise signings. No one expected the third. You, Celtics fan, you're tired of seeing this team hit the goalpost every year, right? There is always a missing piece, a bold movement, and the feeling is that the board is asleep on the spot. But today the story is different. In today's video, I'm going to show you the Boston Celtics' 4 new signings, explain who they are, what each one brings to the rotation, and most importantly, why the third could change the direction of this franchise. If you're afraid of another wasted season, stay with me until the end because here you'll understand if, this time, we're really going to win the title. In fact, before we start breaking down these 4 signings, here's what you need to do. If you're a real Celtics fan, subscribe to the channel now, because here are videos every day talking about our franchise without skipping a beat. Leave a like, because this shows YouTube that there are green fans here in Brazil and helps this content reach more fans like you. And look, activate the bell, because when bomb news, exchange analysis, or hot rumors come out, you will be the first to know. Now let's move on to the video, because I'm going to start with the least exciting signing, and you'll see how even that can make a difference this season. What if the Boston Celtics were actually preparing a move that changes the map of the Eastern Conference, but without making noise, without leaks, without bombastic headlines? Think with me. A step so different, so out of the norm, that even the Milwaukee Bucks, pressured and uncomfortable, prefer to observe in silence rather than risk saying anything in public. That's what I want to talk to you about. In recent months, several signs have become loose along the way. Decisive games, post-match interviews, discreet behind-the-scenes rumors, little notes from insiders that many people ignore. When we look at each piece in isolation, it seems like little. But when we start to piece together the full picture, a much bigger story emerges than a simple casting tweak. Milwaukee went through a heavy losing streak. It wasn't just a bad phase. It was the type of series that leaves fans irritated, the press on alert, and managers sleepless. Then, suddenly, the team reacts, wins, and Giannis delivers another one of those performances in which he seems to play at a different speed, running over Brooklyn as if he were on a practice court. But instead of a light and confident atmosphere, what remains in the air after the game is something else, a kind of suspicious relief. Giannis's words in the interview sound different. These are not statements from someone who is at ease with the team's future. These are measured phrases, comments that sound more like a warning than a celebration. When a superstar at this level begins to show signs of impatience, every move from the board changes its weight. Nothing is just a tactical adjustment or one-off decision. Everything starts to be read as a direct answer to the question, are you taking my career time seriously? It is in this climate that the name of Anfernee Simons enters history. Some time ago, reports surfaced that Milwaukee had been keeping a close eye on Simons' situation after Boston brought him in during one of those off-seasons full of salary cap juggling. It wasn't just any movement. Boston needed to simultaneously maintain competitiveness, hold on to its core, manage the luxury tax, and still find ways to add talent. Simons fits a very specific profile: scorer, capable of creating his own shot, constant threat on the perimeter. In Boston, he found a different context, with more responsibility at certain times, and at the same time, with the chance to play alongside established talents. This elevated the way other teams began to see his value. Now, think about Milwaukee's point of view. You have an offense that plummets when Giannis leaves the court. You know that. The coach knows, the crowd feels it, the board sees the numbers. In parallel, you see a player like Simons in the last year of his contract producing well and showing that he can hold the attack in moments of pressure. Of course, a team in this situation starts to look at him not just as an interesting talent, but as a kind of offensive insurance. Someone who can stop the team from collapsing whenever the main star needs to breathe. But there is one detail that completely changes the reading. Simons is not on just any team. He's on the Boston Celtics, a team that, last spring, exposed the weaknesses of its direct opponents and emerged even more consolidated as a real candidate for the title. When a rival of this level allows his player to become the target of speculation, something deeper is happening. Boston is experiencing a delicate financial situation. The luxury tax isn't just a cold number on a spreadsheet. It influences structural decisions. Every contract renewed, every extension, every addition salary generates a cascading effect. At the same time, the team is dealing with important physical issues, such as Tatum's long recovery process. No matter how carefully you plan, this affects identity, rotation, minutes, and tactical design. In this context, Simons is much more than a simple player. He is a strategic piece. He is in the last year of his contract. He delivers production. He has a market, and therefore it becomes both an immediate solution and a bargaining chip. The crack that appears is not technical, it is structural. The other teams notice. They circulate around, make discreet calls, probe possibilities. This is exactly where the rumor gains strength. Boston, from what is said behind the scenes, doesn't want to simply get rid of Simons. It is not acceptable to include a first-round pick in any package. This reveals something important. The team doesn't see it as a mistake. See it as leverage. If the right proposal comes, he could be part of something bigger. If nothing satisfactory appears, he continues to contribute on the court and keeps the possibility of renewal or sign and trade alive in the future. This leaves room for a central question. If Boston isn't desperate to trade him, why are the rumors still alive? There are some hypotheses. It could be pure strategy. Keep the name in circulation, listen to what the market has to offer, test how far other teams are willing to go. It may also be a reflection of the curiosity of rivals who see Boston as a pressure point. The combination of luxury tax, very high expectations, and an expensive squad is an invitation for other teams to try to force a decision. Or there could be something more careful going on in the background. Perhaps Boston sees a scenario ahead in which it cannot hold everyone in the long term and, therefore, is preparing for a movement that is not yet fully mature but has already begun to be designed. While this conversation about Simons is happening, another line of narrative emerges. The need for another piece of the type that every franchise wants, but few can find. A versatile winger with size, good shooting, defensive impact, and growth potential. That's where the name of a player on Murphy's profile comes in. He represents exactly what defines the modern NBA, versatility on both ends of the court. A winger who spaces the defense with consistent shooting, attacks closeouts, contests well, moves without the ball, and fits into systems that value reading, movement, and defensive intensity. Boston, looking at its own squad, knows the value of a profile like that. When you have Tatum and Brown as pillars, any piece that can lighten their load, maintaining the defensive level and adding offensive efficiency, becomes very rare. It's no wonder that coaches and managers across the league treat these players as almost untouchable assets when they emerge. The point is that a perfect fit, in general, doesn't come cheap. To bring in a player at this level, you don't just give up salary, give up draft picks, young people with potential future flexibility, and it is at this point that the conversation returns to the beginning. How far is Boston willing to go? To what extent is it worth sacrificing parts of the future in the name of an even more dominant present? Bill Simmons, when putting this idea on the agenda, does not create the theme out of thin air. He vocalizes something that many already see. At some point, Boston will take another aggressive step. The title window doesn't last forever. There is a period where salaries, age, health, squad depth, and environment align. It is in this range that the big franchises are betting heavily. So if the window is opening with force now, what should the movement be? An all-in for a winger of Murphy's stature, a calculated trade involving Simons, exploiting his current value to obtain multiple assets, or a middle path in which Boston adjusts the margin, maintains the core, and waits for a clearer scenario later on. Meanwhile, parallel to these major discussions, a type of movement emerges that, at first glance, seems too small to deserve so much attention, a signing like that of Keon Johnson. Looking superficially at this arrival is easy. A young player, 23 years old, who has already played for a few teams, with impressive athleticism, an almost unbelievable impulsion, solid but not thunderous numbers in relevant minutes. The immediate question is, why make this type of bet now? The answer starts with the way Boston sees its own team. Despite competing at a high level, there is an internal perception that, at certain moments in games, a third spark of energy is missing. It's not just about scoring more. It's about changing the pace of the match, accelerating when the opponent expects control, putting pressure in transition, causing defensive discomfort with intensity and scale. Keon is exactly the type of player who lives in that territory. And likes chaos, runs the entire court without hesitation, faces strong marking, contests shots, attacks the rim with confidence. In a structured environment like Boston's, the big question is whether he can adapt that energy to the demands of a team that works with fine details, quick reading, and mature decision-making. Reports of a private training session that exceeded expectations help explain the bet. When members of the coaching staff leave a work session feeling like there is more there than the numbers suggest, something clicks. Maybe it won't be a move to transform the team immediately, but it could be a piece that, in a long playoff, comes from the bench and changes the course of a specific match. And sometimes a game becomes a series. A series changes an entire narrative. This is how these different elements are connected. A player like Simons, productive, valuable, but with an uncertain future in Boston, a target with Murphy's profile, which seems like the ideal fit, but is expensive. An athletic bet like Keon Johnson, who may seem low-key today but has the potential to grow. All this in a context in which the team manages luxury tax, takes care of Tatum's health, tries to maintain depth, and at the same time sustain a standard of performance that places him among the favorites. Now, come back to the initial question with me. What if the Boston Celtics really are preparing a move that goes beyond what we're seeing today? Not necessarily a single big announcement, but a sequence of coordinated decisions. Using Simons' contract as a tool, taking advantage of the interest of teams like Milwaukee that see an immediate solution in him, testing the market for a versatile winger who will further raise the team's ceiling, while at the same time keeping an eye out for small opportunities that could yield more than expected, like Keon Johnson. Meanwhile, on the other side, Milwaukee watches. Giannis feels the clock ticking. The franchise knows it cannot waste its prime years. The continued interest in a player like Simons isn't just curiosity. It is a symptom of urgency. When a direct competitor starts looking to another title contender's bench for an answer, it's a sign that the stability of that conference is more fragile than it seems. It's this combination of factors: pressure in Milwaukee, complex adjustments in Boston, expiring contracts, scarce talent at the league's most coveted position, and gambles on young players that makes this story so fascinating. We're not just talking about statistics, averages per game, or tactical fits. We are talking about choices, of calculated risk, long-term vision. In the end, it all boils down to this. Will Boston choose to hold on to Simons, believe in his importance throughout the season, and try to renew on terms that make sense? Or will you see at this very moment the chance to transform it into pieces that, combined, take the cast to another level? Are you going to get a winger of the type that rarely changes hands and create an almost untouchable nucleus for years? Or will you prefer to preserve draft capital and flexibility, relying on the talent already available in medium-term bets? And Keon Johnson. It will take on a bigger role than anyone imagines today, becoming the kind of name that months later everyone looks back on and says, "How come no one saw that coming?" Or will it just be a quick memory in a season filled with pressure and decisions? These answers do not yet exist, but the signs are there, spread in every rumor, in every careful interview, in every discreet behind-the-scenes movement. Now I want to hear you. Do you think the ideal path for the Boston Celtics involves an aggressive move, turning Simons into a centerpiece trade and targeting a high-impact wing player? Or do you believe that it is best to maintain the basis, adjust calmly, trust internal evolution, and use expiring contracts with more caution? Tell us in the comments what your decision would be if you were in charge of the franchise. Because if there is one thing clear in this whole story, it is that the next big step may not be the one that everyone is waiting for. And precisely for that reason, it may be the most decisive of all. So that's it. The Boston Celtics are facing a decision that goes far beyond another season. Every rumor about Simons, every whisper involving a versatile winger, every bet on an explosive young man like Keon Johnson points to the same reality. Either Boston takes the lead and dictates the course of the Eastern Conference, or it will spend the next few years reacting to what its rivals do. We are not just talking about numbers or cold statistics. We're talking about courage, vision, and how this franchise wants to be remembered. The next move may seem small on paper, but it has everything it takes to reshape the balance of forces in the East. And when that happens, no one will be able to say that there were no signs. See, you've come this far? It's because you really care about every detail of this journey. So don't stop with this video. Once you're done, go straight to the pinned comment. There I left the Celtics analysis playlist separate for you. In this playlist, I delve deeper into these discussions, breaking down trade scenarios, fits, tactical impacts, and what each move means for the future of the Boston Celtics. If you want to stay one step ahead of the narrative, understand the context before the news breaks, the next place you need to click is this playlist in the pinned comment. Finish this video, scroll down, open the pinned comment, and enter Celtics analyses. The next big twist in this franchise may already be being designed right now, and you don't want to follow it halfway.